Good morning. Yeah, I thought I'd come in here and talk a little bit about that old saying, I'll rest when I'm dead. You know, when we talk about Self Care Sunday, and I've been doing a lot of looking at this because I am notorious for being the busy, being busy, right? The busyness. And it was something that I heard not too long ago that got me to thinking, and I wanted to share it here. And that is when we are interacting and with people, and not anyone in particular, but when we're interacting with people and we wonder whether or not they appreciate us, or we doubt that they appreciate us. And maybe they actually are. But the fact is that because we are not appreciating ourselves, or we're even questioning, just the mere question, is somebody appreciating me, or is this person actually appreciating me? That is actually a block. You're actually blocking yourself at that point. I mean, it just, like I said, I heard this and there was this aha moment. Because for years, I've wondered why I felt blocked in this area, or in this area. And I was, believe it or not, I was actually practicing yoga once, and I was doing a yoga sequence that was around the root chakra and Ganesha, and who is the Hindu god of who removes all obstacles, right? But in this yoga sequence, the instructor was talking about how sometimes you are your own block. And it made sense, although I couldn't see how I was interfering with myself, right? Because at that point, everything around me was the reason why, right? Everything was about, I was blaming the world around me as opposed to taking into consideration that I was, in fact, my own biggest block. That nobody else was really blocking me. I can't receive if I'm doubting. I can't receive. In the concept of receiving, it could be anything. Now, within the context of be remarkably healthy, you can't even receive wellness if you doubt your body's natural abilities. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is how Self-Care Sunday, which I like to call sacred self-care, every day, all day, every day. But the fact is that Self-Care Sunday really is about debunking that the deadliest, as far as I'm concerned, the deadliest limiting belief that we have, which is I'll rest when I'm dead. And although I know it's frequently uttered in jest, I wonder how many people actually embody that belief, or at the very least feel a lot of obligation. There's a strong sense of obligation and motivation to do what we do because we're adulting, right? That's just it. We're adulting. And I'm here as an invitation to build rest into every single day, every single moment. And that's why I am such a fierce advocate for the use of essential oils, because they really do allow the body to receive. However, you will be your own biggest block. Because if you doubt your body's natural abilities, if you question their effectiveness, if all you're doing is chasing symptoms, I'm going to say that again. If all you're doing is chasing symptoms, then you're not going to experience good health and wellness. And as far as I'm concerned, wellness actually precedes health. And I only talk about this because I've lived it. I have absolutely lived it. I've gone from busy, super mom, super hyper focused employee. I did it all. I was right there. I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be the one that everybody was going, wow, she's really good at what she does. That was my MO. That was my motivation. And then because I had a family, there was a strong sense of obligation. Hey, look, this isn't to say that we don't take care of our families. This is not about when I say rest, I'm not talking about you just sit on the couch all day long. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about giving this a rest. I'm talking about self-checks. Like, what is it that's actually got you doing what you're doing? Is it a sense of obligation? Is it because somebody else has expectations, or you think people have expectations of you? Is it because you don't have boundaries? Those would be reasons why I did what I've done throughout the years. And then when I was physically and mentally exhausted, when exhaustion hit, I mean, I've lived with anxiety for a good portion of my life. Low energy, chronic fatigue. I've had people go, well, you don't know what it means to have chronic fatigue. Trust me, I do. I've just pushed through it. Not to say that you're supposed to. It's not about a should or have to. It's simply that was the choice that I made. And what I've come to determine is there was, like, again, a strong sense. There was so much. I was just motivated. A lot of have tos. And I've heard the reframing, right? There's a lot of reframing these days where we talk, I don't have to, but I get to. Well, that's a really great platform to start with. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't solidly stand on I get to and find the inspiration and get to, you're still being motivated. And that's where I was coming from. And so the chronic fatigue that you experience, I've experienced, so many people experience, has everything to do with the fact that we are coming from the space of motivation. And the interesting thing is we have tons and tons of motivational speakers, and it's not to say that you don't get that oomph when you get up and you go. Find the fire, be lit up by what you do. Absolutely, but let it be inspiration. And there's a distinct difference, as far as I'm concerned, between those two words. There's a real heaviness to motivation. It's like there's something physically human, what's the word I'm looking for? It's of this world. We are taking action rooted in something of this world. And that may sound like a very strange thing to say, but what if we took action from something that wasn't of this world? That we were actually co-creating with God's source, the universe, however you define your spiritual wealth, your spiritual wealth, however you define that, because God is your source is your source, life is your source, the universe is your source. I mean, however you define your spiritual wealth. And I wanted to say here real quickly, now that word came out of my mouth, the WEAL actually means well-being. So wealth is truthfully a well of information, a well of inspiration. So what if we actually were in this space of co-creating our lives, of taking action in our life for the betterment of all, not just for ourselves? There's inspiration. I used to think about that I was just doing things because I was trying to touch people's lives, and it sounded good. But when I was still dealing with the level of fatigue, right, the dis-ease, and may I remind you that dis means lack. So if you have dis-ease, you have a lack of ease. And although I understood all this, again, I have been asked countless times, well, if you used essential oils, if you've really been doing this for all these years, why have you struggled with so many different health issues? Well, I can tell you why. Straight up, I can tell you why. It's because although I believed in my body's natural abilities, I wasn't really willing to let go of that limiting belief, that toxic belief, this sense of obligation, the strong push, aka motivation, to get things done. Maybe it was bills. Bills had to get paid, right? There were family members to please. I mean, there was a whole lot of pushing in my life. No wonder I was exhausted. So one morning before I got out of bed, I meditate every single morning before I get out of bed. And it dawned on me in that meditation that rest is an invitation. Rest is the invitation. So we can either look at it as something that's, we don't have to do until we die, or we can allow that sacred pause to be the sacred self-care, to be the rest in our mind, to actually be in our heart, and stop chasing symptoms. Stop pushing things. Stop forcing things. This is the Tao Te Ching, right? This is what they call Wu Wei. It's effortless ease. It's being in the state of awareness, thoughtfulness, minding what words you're actually using, because your words are either tools of creation or weapons of destruction. So be careful about how you even speak of yourself, of your health, about how your future health is going to be. You may be asking me, why do I even care about health? Because your health matters. There's a reason why you're even here. You didn't come here just to, to fill up a bubble. You're here for a reason. And and it's not my place, your place, anybody's place to tell you whether it's important or not. Everyone has an important part. When my kids were growing up, and they were all in plays, and some of them had big parts and some of them had little parts, and the ones that had the little parts thought they were insignificant, and I was like, no, I don't know, without you it would be an incomplete show. So consider life as a show, and your part, no matter how you want to frame it, has an important role. So your health matters, because the better the quality of your health, the higher your state of wellness. As I said earlier, wellness precedes health. And wellness is a state of mind. So you have a higher state of wellness, you're going to have a higher quality of health, because you're going to be in alignment with reception. You're going to be receiving. You're going to be in that state of rest. You're going to stop pushing. You're going to be allowing. And that's where oils come in. That's why I'm such a fierce advocate of them, because that was my biggest turning point for me, is when I realized that in the last series of diagnoses, which was, for those of you that don't know my story, was breast cancer, skin cancer, osteoporosis, as well as arthritis throughout my body, all in one fell swoop. That's what actually caused a massive pivot in my business, because it really became more about, I was already in line with systemic relief, but yet we were still looking at individual conditions. And when something that my father said when my youngest sister was diagnosed with a massive brain abscess. When I say massive, it was like when they finally removed the fluid, it was 90 cc's of fluid in this abscess on her brain. But before they got to that point, and they were telling my parents that it was an inoperable tumor. Now, she already had a hole in her heart. She already had an enlarged heart. She also had a lung condition, and you'll have to forgive me, I was a kid when, I want to call it PPR. I think it was primary pulmonary resuscitation. I don't remember specifically. What I do know is that today they are able to help people with this condition, but back then it was not as well studied, we'll put it that way. But then she develops this brain abscess, and I remember my father talking to the doctors and saying, there is no way. It was brilliant. It was an absolutely brilliant statement, and it stuck with me when it came to everything that I've done over all these years. It's been this journey, a very important journey that I can see I was led down, because if I just came at this from like, you should do this and you should do that, where's the compassion? Where's the empathy? I was being led down a journey that brought me to my knees and humbled me to where I do understand, I do have compassion. And it began, I had to have it for myself. But the thing with my father was, it was a brilliant statement, because he looked at the doctors, he goes, there is no way that this child has all these individual health issues. There's got to be a connection somehow. There's got to be a connection somehow. It was really very, because my father was not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination. He was an executive for a steel company, actually U.S. Steel. He worked within U.S. Steel. And so that insight stuck with me. And that's how I work with people today, is that it's all connected. And that is really, my father had already passed away by the time I had gotten my diagnosis, but it was that voice that actually got me, that inspired me, because I wasn't motivated at that point. I was pretty reluctant. I was like, screw this. I obviously, I didn't know any longer. And I found inspiration. And the inspiration was my father's voice, number one. And number two, the additional inspiration was to be able to provide a way for others, because I wasn't willing to succumb to the health issues. Just wasn't willing to succumb to it. And yet and how do I say this? So I did all of the work. I did a lot. I really, through all of my treatments, I was really devoting every minute of my time beyond the treatments into understanding the root cause. Literally the root cause of all health conditions, and being able to tie them together to actually say, how can you have breast cancer and arthritis and osteoporosis? Well, I do understand now, and that is the stress response that I talk all the time about. It is a stress response, and instead of calling it that, you may know it as the epigenome or the methylation pathway, MTHFR. That is your stress response. That's your stress system. And it is an adaptive, it's the way your body is actually adapting to the stressors of your life, to the busyness in this case. The busier we become, or the busier we remain, without taking the foot off the gas pedal, and we don't give ourselves a chance to receive. This is one of the biggest lessons. And the funny thing is it took me forever to get this from yoga. For some reason, it's like I'd go through the yoga sequence, and then, we're going to do Shavasana now. We're going to lay down. Screw it. I'm just going to get up. I'm just going to get up and get back with my day. I didn't allow my body to receive the benefits of the effort that I put into it. Meaning, although it's flow, right, there's action to be taken. So we can use it that way. Because when I say effortless ease, I realize I just used the word effort. But through the actions that I was taking in yoga, I wouldn't allow my body to receive the benefits. And so when we institute the use of essential oils based on your body's needs, like customizing them and helping your body to adapt more efficiently, meaning helping it to reset the epigenome. And this is a very difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around, because currently the big marketing trend with epigenetics is that, look at where your body's at. I was sitting with someone yesterday, an Amish client and his family, and of course several of them had taken the 23andMe test, and he was sitting there telling me that he has problems with producing SOD. Well, most people do when the stress response is activated. But even though 5 years later, he's convinced that he still has problems with SOD. Now, the interesting, and that for those of you that don't know, is superoxide dismutase is what that stands for. That's it's a type of enzyme the body is supposed to produce when it's not stressed. It's an actual enzyme that they now, of course, sell as a nutraceutical. And I'm a big believer, if the body is supposed to make it, you don't want to take it. And interestingly enough, I actually heard a doctor just yesterday talk about taking collagen and how the body doesn't absorb the collagen because it's not making it, and that you're better off producing the collagen, which, by the way, there's an essential oil for that. And I say that lightly, but there is. And the reason I made that joke is because that's a new series I'm doing on Clubhouse. There's an essential oil for that. But the point is that if the body's supposed to make it, don't take it. That was the whole message from the doctor. She was obviously promoting collagen and anti-aging, but the body can do this. It's the reason why we're seeing people getting older and, looking aging rapidly. We're seeing it in young people. in the sense that, comparatively speaking, when we're talking numbers, we're seeing aging happen faster. Children are coming into this world with shorter telomeres. So we're seeing an activation of this stress response, and the idea that we cannot assist our stress response, meaning the epigenome, is not true. It's not true. You absolutely can. Taking supplements is not going to do it. You can override it. Because the interesting thing is, this gentleman yesterday told me that when he initially started taking the SOD enzyme, I was going to say SOD and catalase because catalase is another enzyme, but he just took the SOD, that he noticed a renowned source of energy. I'm adding the renowned, but he was very emphatic that was his reaction. But you know what? It was only short-lived. And now he's struggling again. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because we live in a world of obligations. We are taught to feel like we have to do things. There's reasons. We got to get our bills paid. Again, we have to do the adulting thing. We're just going to sum it up as that. We have to do the adulting. And when we do the adulting, we're creating even more disease because most of us, if not all of us, are operating in a way that's completely out of alignment with our higher self. It's not the way God is intending it. God is expressing himself through you. Source is expressing itself through you. Again, however you want to classify it, it's up to you, but it's your spiritual wealth. It's your divine expression is coming through you. And when we don't honor it, this is what it means to come through heart. This is what it means to live through heart, is to be able to honor that expression and be able to give it a rest, right? To give the body a rest, to give the brain a rest. I didn't use the word mind intentionally because I believe that our mind is our higher self. I believe that is our connection to God, source, life, higher consciousness. That's what I firmly believe. And when we quiet the brain and we quiet the body, because the body follows the brain. And by the way, in this state of rest that I'm talking about, it's really a good reminder. It's good to remember that you have the ability to harness your body. You have the ability to regulate yourself. We talk about cravings. We talk about anxiety attacks. We talk about depression. We talk about all these things. Give yourself a rest. Give the brain a rest. Give the body a rest. Find the inspiration. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can journal. You can do it through prayer. Prayer in the sense of going quiet. I'm going to recommend a book for you called Stillness Speaks. It was written by Eckhart Tolle, that one who wrote The Power of Now and A New Earth. He also wrote one called Stillness Speaks, and it's a very short, simple read, and you can read it just in segments. If you want to, you can read it just a chapter at a time. Go back and reread it as a reminder. But the fact is that get to that place of stillness. Quiet the thoughts. When you quiet the thoughts, and the way you can do that, if you're going to meditate, the best way to meditate is to turn on some very relaxing music and focus on the music, meaning like instrumental music. Just turn it on and just sit. Close your eyes, 5-10 minutes, and just listen to the music. Notice when your brain starts to come up with a thought and just let it go. Come back to the music. You have the ability to control that. And when you learn how to do that, you're going to find it a lot easier to begin to do that with your body. And you're going to be allowing yourself to receiving. Maybe it's insights. Maybe it's an inspiration. Maybe it's just a moment of peace. But that peace, that inner peace, is required to restore ease. You want to be healthy? Start with upgrading your degree of wellness. come from a higher state of wellness. Give it a break. Put down the busyness. It doesn't all have to happen today. Again, I see memes all the time about how nature just takes its time, everything in time, right? There's all these reminders, but I'm not observing it happening, and myself included. That's the reason why I'm here today. That's why I'm here in my robe. Because there's value in the rest. There's power in the pause. David Matthews has a song called The Space Between. And that song, it just is so meaningful to me because there's power in that pause. It doesn't have to be long. But everything will happen in time. And I can assure you that the actions that you want to take, it doesn't even mean you have to change the way you do things. Did you know that? You don't have to change the way you do things. Just the way you think about it. And maybe find the inspiration, like what is calling you to do this action as opposed to what's pushing you. There's another tip. Explore what calls you instead of pushes you. I like that. Find what calls you instead of pushes you. And let rest be something that you experience before you die. Otherwise, it's killing you now. So, with that, I'm going to leave you there. I hope that helps. I hope this makes a difference for you. If you want to talk about oils and way to get to customize or oils to help you get into the more receptive state as opposed to just chasing symptoms, give me a heart below. Just give me a heart in the comments, and we can connect. You're also welcome to DM me, but if it's easier just to drop a heart in the comments, please do so, because I would love a chance to talk with you and help design something that is the essence of who you are and allow you to be in that state of reception. And so I'll wait to hear from you on that. But in the meantime, meditate. Meditate. Meditation is a form of prayer. Meditation is a form of prayer. It's a way of allowing yourself to rest. Go into that still state and check in with yourself. You can absolutely take the same action. You can whether what's pushing you, ask yourself, what's pushing me? Am I being pushed or am I being called? And just be honest about it. And you know what? It may take some time. Be compassionate with yourself in the process. That is a way to harness wellness. That is the way that you harness wellness and restore a higher quality of health. Age better, age gracefully, and not kill yourself off before it's time. I love you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day wherever you are. And if I don't see you before, happy fall. Bye.